So Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes, their captain, signs a mega extension, conveniently enough and perfectly enough, on his birthday, his 26th birthday. 8 years, 9.75 mil per season. Automatically, I think anytime anything happens in hockey, it's like, how does this relate to the Toronto Maple Leafs? At least that's the way I think, covering this Maple Leafs team. And I think there are a lot of parallels to draw between the two players, and thinking, of course, Aho and William Nylander, who's still without a contract and a year away from UFA status. You look primarily at Aho. He's hit 35 goals in 3 of the past 4 years. It easily would have been 4 if it weren't for the 56-game slate in the COVID-shortened season a couple years back. Then you look at Nylander. He's 27, back-to-back 80-point seasons, first career 40-goal campaign. I guess the biggest difference you can find, at least for me, in the players, outside of the fact that Aho is probably a more well-rounded player, plays the PK, plays all facets of the game, is the fact that he's a center and Nylander's a winger. But at the very least, you have to think the Nylander camp is looking very closely at that Aho situation, no?
Yeah, for sure. They're like you say, comparables, and they're gonna do everything they can to compare and claim that Willie Nylander is better than Aho, and hence why we need more money than he got. That's a monster contract he got,
Yeah.
long-term 8-year deal too. With those long-term ones, I mean, that's the max you can sign for. It's always a toss-up. Does anyone know where anyone's gonna be or what they're gonna look like in 8 years? The answer is no. But in order to lock guys up that you want, you take that risk, you roll the dice, and you see what it's like. And lots of times, guys aren't worth their contract the last 2, 3 years. Sometimes they front end load them for that reason. Blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is that's going to be a comparable, no question. And whether that brings the two camps closer together in an understanding of what Nylander's worth, that just depends on where their headspace is at, who's being stubborn, who's being greedy, whose head is up in the clouds. It's hard to say, man. We know that Nylander wants to get paid mega, mega. Can they afford to pay him mega when, their other core four are getting paid mega dollars? And, is he worth it? And is he going to get that on the open market? The Leafs have a tendency to overpay their players just to say, look at our big guy here. We're going to keep him in town and lock him up for the Leafs Nation. And then it's like smokes. You got, you're up at the cap with these guys. And I don't know what's going to happen with this Nylander story. I think he's worth a good chunk of money. Is he going to be like superstar, going to get overpaid? I don't think they can do that. I don't think they will do that. Is he going to take a discount and just hang out? I also don't think he's going to do that. We know he's not scared to sit out. We know he's not scared to say, hey, I know my worth and I'm not scared to, sit on it and make you pay me. He sat out before and missed training camp and whatnot. So it's tough, man. I don't know what's going to happen with this thing. I truly believe they're going to start the season with it not finished, and we'll see how that season goes and see if anything changes. Because of right now, I don't think anyone's going to break.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, the biggest difference from the last time around is the fact that he's got a contract in place. He has 1 year left, but it walks him right to free agency, right? But I totally agree with you. Like, I don't want to say this contract has sealed the fate of Willie Nylander in Toronto, but I think if there's one thing we learned is that he has a number in mind, he's going to get that number. And there has to be, on both sides of the conversation, they have to come together to make a deal happen, right? And you just wonder the motivating forces on both sides. And just knowing about Michael Nylander, knowing about Willie and his style the last couple of years in negotiating, I just don't see a pathway, Rosie. Like, I really, really don't. And that's okay. Like, I'm probably in the minority, but I'm good with them going the year with Nylander as a guy who's going to become a free agent. Like, sometimes you have to roll the dice, and I think at this point in the offseason, it would make no sense to flip or trade this guy, unless, again, we can have that conversation at a later date about San Jose, maybe. But there's only minimal teams that I think would be available to take on that contract and actually give you what you want for this player. So I think the only resolution right now is to go into next year without a contract.
I think so, and depending on how the year's going, you got until trade deadline to do
Yeah.
something, or else you absolutely risk losing him for nothing. If you're making a run at the cup, teams do that sometimes. We know we're probably, we're not going to keep this guy, but we're making a run and we want him right now, and
Yeah.
that's dangerous. Losing a Willie Nylander for nothing is not ideal. But you got to sit and see if you can't get them locked up, which it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do. You got to see how the season's going, where you are headed um, into the trade deadline, into playoffs. What do you need? What does it look like? And last chance you can do it is at that trade deadline. If they need to make a big change, they're not happy with something. make a trade, get a big boy. Like someone's going to need a Willie Nylander. We're going to need something, maybe make a deal there, or maybe hold on to him, roll the dice, or maybe get him signed up at Christmas. It's just
Yeah.
everything's up in the air. And as of right now, I just think that both sides have no reason to bend, and it looks like they're not going to. So, I
Yeah.
mean, time's going to tell, but I really don't know what's going to happen with this one. It could be, a number of things.
And the more you see these type of contracts roll out, I just don't think it's in favor of the Leafs, like the Aho contract. And again, people are going to have some pros and cons. Are they similar? Are they not? Different positions. But I mean, you look at the numbers. Nylander's a probably better goal scorer, but the all-around player is Aho. Like the more these type of contracts come out, I just don't think it's going to benefit the Leafs side. And that's why I think there comes a point in time where they have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? I don't know if this is going to get done. I don't know if Nylander is going to be a Leaf past this season, unfortunately.
Maybe not. And why is that? Because the core four are making monster
Yes,
money.
sir.
Like, look at what John Tavares makes.
Yeah,
That, I mean, if that was $4 million less, we'd be able to work
there it
with it.
is.
But everyone's just topped right up to the top. The brim is filled. You can't put any more in, or it's going to overflow. You just can't do it. And especially with a guy like Willie, who's a talented player. He is a player who knows his worth, who wants to maximize his value. Him and his agent have shown again that they're not scared to say too bad. I'm not getting pushed around. I know. And when you got those two sides happening, like it's a stalemate, and it's not going to change anytime soon, I don't believe. And with that contract coming out, like you say, it only makes it more difficult. You just can't be signing these monsters to everybody. It's not how it works. And they're in a position where their cup is full.